Wie geht man mit Rückschlägen im Business, aber auch im Sales um? Wie habe ich erfolgreich mein erstes Startup gegen die Wand gefahren und wie hat mich das Ganze auch in die Welt des SaaS Sales katapultiert? Dazu durfte ich mit The Failure Talks sprechen und ich wünsche dir jetzt ganz, ganz viel Spaß mit dem Interview vom Dejan und mir.
We are so glad to have you. Alberto, you are, for those who do not know, not only Mr. Austria, you're also Mr. Europe, but you're also a very successful entrepreneur, right? And a digital sales coach. Yes. I'm again very happy to have you here. And for those who have seen you so far, they might remember you that you already gave a speech at my Fuck Up Nights here in Austria. It was a blast. It was so much fun to have you together with Jules, your colleague back then, and you told us a little bit about a startup that you started in a very early age, right?
Yeah.
As we hear the failure talks, you might already assume you failed with that, right? Spoiler alert. Tell us a little bit more. What was the startup about? What was the idea?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. So to answer the question, the startup was a very simple idea. It was cereal delivered to your office or school so that you could eat healthy wherever you are. That was the idea, right? Sounds really simple, but we basically were very well at marketing and selling it and had a very cool concept around it and actually won a ton of awards. So that at the beginning felt like this cannot go wrong. We're on the right track. We're the next, I don't know, Elon Musks of Austria, whatever, with this simple, stupid idea. But the concept was good, it was solid, but in the end, as your spoiler alert already said, it failed, right? So winning lots of awards, having the recognition, feeling like you're on the right track, hustling 24/7 for 3 years, 3 or 4 years actually with the pre-seed phase and all that stuff. But yeah, we had to close down after about 3 years in the market.
So two things. I remember you studied something out of the university, right? That's the first thing. And then you also said you've won a lot of awards and a lot of traction. Tell us a little bit more like how everything started and why do you even thought it's going to be the next big thing here in Austria?
So the idea basically started, or I went to that university with the idea in mind to enter the startup incubator at that university, which I then did. I just wanted to start something. I then tried to put together a team, came up with the idea with a couple of friends or first teammates. And then we started, business planning, which was kind of part of the university course. So we had to do a business plan anyway. So we really hustled our way into that and entered a couple of, competitions and even won the best business plan in Austria. So that was the first moment where we're like, wait a minute, it's not just cereal, we're changing the world. And I don't think that thought in itself is ridiculous, right? There's lots of simple ideas that can make it big, but it was the feeling too entitled almost at some point. Like it was not just that award, that was the first big one. Then we got awards for our marketing, for our sustainability, for everything you could think of, being in all the magazines, TV, radio spots, and so on. That was a phase where we felt like it's impossible that this cannot work. We're everywhere, everybody knows us. The numbers look good and they look decent, but then once you enter the market and you need to sell repeatedly, that's where we're like, wait a minute, the numbers kind of don't look that great anymore.
So you mean by numbers, the business case, the business plan?
Business plan compared to reality of business.
If I understand you now correctly, you had this amazing business plan coming out or create at the university.
Exactly.
And so you pitched the business plan and the numbers in the business plan and the marketing plan in the business plan. Is that right?
Not entirely. So yes, it was of course a business plan presentation, but part of it was you had to prove that the business can actually work. So we were already selling.
All right.
We already had numbers. We were selling to some of the biggest companies in Austria. We're like, well, we have these 2 customers already. Imagine if we get this A round or whatever, and then we blow it up. Imagine what could happen. So it was not just hypothetical stuff. It was mostly actual real stuff.
Okay, now you got me curious.
Yeah.
So you had the numbers,
Yeah.
you had the awards.
Yes.
Did you also raise some money?
Yes.
How did you screw this up?
It's a great question. My mom also asked me, like, Alberto, what happened there?
What happened now? We all want to know
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah. It's very detailed now, but to give you an insight, it was that we had the numbers, but only based the entire business plan off of those 1, 2, 3 big companies we had as a customer. And then also, you know, customer lifetime value, all that stuff was not in play in that business plan. It was basically, okay, we had those couple of customers for like 3-4 weeks. If we blow it up, that's what the numbers would look like. But then if you try to get the 5th, 6th, 7th, 20th customer of that size, you suddenly realize like, hey, that doesn't work as easily as the first 1 or 2.
A lot of people say getting the first customer, the first paying one, is the hardest thing. And once you have the first, maybe the second, then it goes easier.
Yeah.
So how did you like experience now suddenly this bigger challenge than you normally would have with the first customer?
That's a great question. So how we got the first customers is we pitched ourselves as the students starting a project as a startup, and we might do a business out of that. But it was very much like, oh, these students, they want to try something. Okay, come in, let's try it. And then we tested it for, let's say, a month. And I think the people were too nice to us. It was too much like, okay, they're gonna try it. Yeah, I'm gonna buy that product. I'm gonna buy it 4 times a week. Then you enter the market and they don't know you as a student. They just know your concept and your website. Suddenly they only buy once a week.
I see.
And that's where the numbers suddenly dropped and we realized the scale is not where we would like it to be.
So yeah, so the first early adopter was more motivated because of, I want just to support your enthusiasm, maybe.
Yeah.
You coming from the university, you're still in this entrepreneurship program, and I want to support that. And less in terms of they have been convinced because of the quality of and the service that you offered. All right.
So that's number one. And if I may add to that, the second one is we were selling a physical food product. So you have your calculations, how much does the yogurt cost per cup? And you can calculate that easily if you have 10 cups. If you suddenly have to, you know, create or make 1,000 of those a day, then the numbers look different. You might assume, okay, it actually gets cheaper, but there's so many things you don't know in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we only realized or learned that as we're doing that and growing. And then we realized, hey, we should sell this cereal for not $3.50, but like for €6 to make it a sustainable, profitable business.
I like that.
Yeah.
So would you say that starting things from the university, out of a university, is even like the best that could happen to you? Because if you fail during this student life and it's part of just a project and not a real startup where you invest your own money and you want to go for gold and, you know, either you fly or you die.
In my case, it was the perfect scenario because we had the incubator that backed us, which was tied to the university. The university had their own incubator startup program. We had our offices there. We had business mentors. We had laboratories. We had everything that you could not pay for as a startup. Impossible. I'm not saying it's necessary, but it was definitely a very, very nice to have and definitely helped us with getting everything on track very quickly. And very professionally also, because we had all the backup you could ask for. Then the second question, or to angle it differently, is it in general a good or bad idea to start a startup out of the university? It depends, right? That's the right answer. It depends. It's a two-edged sword, I think, because one, you have all the support, but two, you also have a lot of obligations because now suddenly you, as a startup founder, stand for the university. If you understand, like you're the pride of the university, you can't screw up. Like you won these 1, 2, 3, 4 awards. Like if you fail, that's gonna look terribly bad, not just for yourself, but maybe also for university or other people involved. But also to go back to the first case, we were a startup. We did start the company. We did put our own money in there. So we went over the leap of just being a project. Yeah.
I like that. I'm trying to connect the thing that you said right now with this obligation towards the university with let's say, entrepreneurship. So do you think a lot of entrepreneurs might also experience the same pressure because now suddenly they represent a company, a brand, and a well-established brand?
Yeah.
And how can we put this together in a perspective that you have to experiment, you have still to try small. We just talked recently about the lean startup approach, right?
Yeah.
So now on one hand, you have the huge pressure of a brand, or in your case, the university.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you know you have to start small, experiment, and even have the freedom to fail, but take the learning out of the failure and try it in a second attempt and make it better.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is there a tip we can address to corporates and still take out the pressure, because we need corporates to innovate, and we need them to have the freedom even to fail?
I think it's a very fair question, and I think it's almost impossible to give an answer that is true for every company. But I think a general approach I would have is to allow to fail, and of course you need to kind of plan that into your business year. Let's say, okay, these should be the goals, but we also, I don't know, include a buffer of XYZ euros or whatever, because we know that to get somewhere sustainable, we will fail and we will have to fail. But honestly, I'm not an entrepreneur in that sense in a corporate. I probably am not the perfect person to talk about that, but just from my experience with the university, there is pressure. It's terrible, because we had the first business concepts, and then we were basically told or hinted like, hey, do your research 10x and test it way more so we can see if it actually can work. And then we basically went with the first best pivot, but maybe the third or fourth best would have been even better. I have no idea. I can't answer that now, but that's sometimes what I think of when going back. Like, should we have pushed further and failed more? I'm not sure.
Let me ask you two things now.
So
what was the moment that you realized maybe we should stop now? What have been the signs for you and for your team to make a decision? Because oftentimes people also don't know when to stop. Because what if and what if and what if? There are too many what ifs. At one point you have to do that. And the second question would also be like, okay, now give me the lessons learned. What was the failure that me, the community out there, we are not supposed to do because you already did it for us?
Perfect. Okay, so let's answer the first question first. When did I notice, or our team notice, what happened when we knew, okay, we should probably stop? And this is a great question, because I was always, or am still very much, the person to push, to go, okay, we need to do it once more. No, successful entrepreneurs, they always push and go harder and all that. But a specific point was where we realized, okay, we can't scale it ourselves. We need a strategical partner. So we were negotiating with all the biggest brands in that field in Austria, in the German-speaking area. And we were very close in securing a very good deal. And we worked with this company, with all their 3 CEOs, for a week in the office, hunting down the numbers, calculating everything, coming up with a concept together. And they already, with a handshake, said, yeah, we're gonna do it. Awesome. And we went out there and we're like, this is it. All the hard work paid off. We were cheering. I know we hid behind a car, and then we're like, yes, this is amazing. I hope they can see us from the window. And then I went for a run the next day. The CEO, the main CEO, he called me and he's like, hey, we went through everything again. Right now we can't commit. And I was like, my heart stopped beating for a couple of seconds. I was like, you just yesterday said yes.
We already spent the money.
I just bought the new Porsche. No, but that was a very crucial point where I realized, like, okay, we worked so hard for not just 1, 2, but 3+ years. We negotiated with everyone we could that makes sense to partner up with. We were so close, and now even they say no. That was where I realized, like, hey, the entire business model, it kind of, not just for me doesn't make sense, but for everyone we talked to, and even they took it seriously. They were not like, hey, those are the 3 student founders, whatever. They looked at it, and we had very serious negotiations, but still they said, hey, this kind of feels like it can't work. And then we reevaluated. And I remember in our student dorm, similar to this hotel where we're here, student dorm room, and I said, hey, we need to try this. And then Julia, who you mentioned, one of our co-founders, she literally hit the table and she's like, guys, we tried everything. We said, if this doesn't work, we're gonna stop. We need to stop. And I'm like, but don't we push more?
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, wait a minute, okay, she has a point. Yeah. So that was a very crucial part. And to go back to your second question, the learnings was, number one, I would test way more. Yes, we tested selling the product to real companies, 2, 3, 4 companies, but I would test even more. Try to test as much as possible, fail as much as possible before you actually even start the company. Number two, I would always focus on profitability. And by that, I mean, selling 1 cup of yogurt needs to create sizable profit in our case. It was just like a couple of cents, like 10 cents. And with then going into the real market, realizing, hey, the costs are actually different, those 10 cents are suddenly gone and you're not making a profit. And those would be my 2 main learnings. So really over-test, focus on profitability.
Let me come back now to a recent past. I mentioned you already, Mr. Austria, Mr. Europe. Congrats again to that.
Thank you.
It was amazing watching you on social media, achieving all these goals. What I liked about the thing that you made it. Now, me as a failure enthusiast, I always think about what kind of mindset do you need to have in order to achieve a lot of things like you also did? Because honestly, we all have our dreams. We all have this, one day I would love to be this and that. And what I see here, the biggest difference maybe, a lot of people also have this lack of executing things, maybe because of a mindset, of wrong mindset, and you just did it, and I'm so amazed by that. And I want to talk a little bit about this mindset that you have, because there is also a high chance actually not to win. And let's put it that way, if you do not win, you fail, right? So, and you still had a mindset and you went for it and you did it. I mean, that's so amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about this winning mindset that is connecting also to how to deal with failing that didn't even happen yet, right? But you still gave it a shot. Give us a little bit more of your brain. How do you work?
I love the question, and that's an interesting thing. You saw all the things on social media. I also know what went on behind the scenes. I did not all the time have the mentality of, yes, this is a perfect idea, I'm gonna go in there and I know how I'm gonna win and I'm gonna do it. It was not like that. It was mingling again, not the straight line, not the straight line. It was actually my girlfriend pushing me because I was having my doubts, like Mr. Austria, pageantry, being in one of these type of competitions, does that really make sense? Why would I do that? And
because this is also not your background.
No.
You're not coming from the fashion industry, being a model and traveling around the world. Right?
Not at all. No, I'm not a model, and
you're a business guy. Sorry for interrupting, but you're a business guy. Did you make it out of business out of that?
You know what? The reason I did it was my why behind my life. Like I wanted to. This Mr. Austria and Europe thing is one tiny step in all the things I want to do. That's how I saw it and still see it today. For others, the Mr. Austria and Europe thing might be the goal. For me, it was just one small stepping stone. I want to inspire people. I want to reach people. I want to show that you can achieve things. And that's where I'm like, well, Mr. Austria could be a good platform to spread my word. That was the initial idea. And then I'm like, but I'm not a model. I'm way too small. There were guys in there, typical model, right? You could like, well, I have no chance here. But then I realized that it's not just a model competition. It's about being able to speak, being able to convince people, being able to, be good at charity events, being able at so many things. It was a 360 competition, not just, are you a good looking guy? If it was just that, I would have from the beginning said, whatever.
It's not it. Oh, wait a sec. Wow, that's amazing. So what I hear right now is the doubts, right? And if people put the focus on the doubts, like I'm not as beautiful as the others, and if they just focus on that, it's easy to give up, right? But you said, okay, maybe I'm not the tallest, maybe I'm not the most beautiful one,
Yeah.
but it's just one thing out of more.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Wow, I like that. So the lesson here, one of the lessons, like, don't put the focus only on the doubts.
Yeah.
Just put it into a perspective to the other gains that you can achieve.
It was basically in a timeline, me having the doubts, then having the decision with talking to a lot of people, reflecting, thinking if it's a good idea, then making the decision, and then as soon as I have the decision, I'm gonna go all in. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into this Mr. Austria thing, cool. And then I went into, I don't know, power mode, let's say, trying to figure out how I can actually make the best out of this experience.
How did you win? What's the secret?
And I think I only shared this once on stage so far. I think, honestly, from a technical standpoint, it was my sales skill, because I saw it as, how do I sell myself? In this competition, in this setting, I'm the product, as blunt as it sounds. I'm the product. How can I sell myself to be the next winning product, the next Mr. Austria? So I just went in there with all my sales skills. And here's the thing, I might look like I'm 20 or at that point, and kind of everybody in that competition was around 20, but I was like 26, 7. So I had some work experience in specifically sales. I think that's a fact that is not to be neglected in this case. So I went in there, I asked a ton of questions. I asked past Mr. Austrias, how did they win? I asked the sponsors, what are you looking in a Mr. Austria? I talked to the organizer, hey, what do you think is a good idea to do in this event? What do you think did the last Mr. Austria do right? What did the others do wrong? I was just asking questions, because for me, that's what sales is mainly all about. Asking questions and then seeing if you can fit and help with the product you have to offer. And then without, of course, like faking myself, I put myself into their shoes and said to myself, okay, they're kind of looking for this. Can I offer that? Yes. Okay, I'm going to show them that I can offer that.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that story. What was the first learning?
It was over-testing.
Over-testing.
So that would basically be all the market research, all the talking, all the focusing on profitability. In this case, it was not like I'm going to do it for the money, but the profitability was, how can it enhance or help me with reaching my goal of inspiring even more people or getting more, recognition or being seen more. Because there was a lot of media and that, and then I wanted to turn it into a way that I can use it in a positive way. Yeah.
I love that. Now, I said at the beginning you're a digital sales coach, right? And you also gained a lot of experience in Silicon Valley over there, right? So what happened with Silicon Valley? You said it was maybe one of the most crucial periods in your life where you learned a lot. Same here, by the way. And it turned you into a sales machine, a digital sales coach, helping also others. But what happened in Silicon Valley? Why do you say Silicon Valley was so important in your life?
Yeah, it was something completely different suddenly. I failed with my startup. I reevaluated and said, hey, I think whatever I need to do in the future, it turned out to be also stuff like Mr. Austria, I need to get good at sales. Whatever you do, you need to be at least decent at sales and know what you're talking about. So then I found a mentor, long story short, and kind of hustled my way into this company in Silicon Valley. It was not easy. That is also a fail story in itself. But I then went there, and why it was so life-changing was that I was suddenly in a completely different world. I was not in Austria doing all my things, starting my startup. I was in another bubble, right? I was in Silicon Valley, and suddenly was in touch with so many inspiring people that thought way bigger than I was at that time. And I realized, like, damn, there's so much more even out there. And that's why I think it was so life-changing, just the environment that I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly what I also took from my time over there. It's also the mindset of the society. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, startups, in general, new products, new services, I think the people over there, like, they ask themselves, is this going to make my life better? If yes, I'll give it a shot, right? How do you help others? And of course, because it's the failure talk here, what is a common mistake a lot of people do in the sales business that they might not even know they're doing it?
Yeah. So answering the first question, what exactly I do is I help small to medium-sized businesses, especially also startups, scale their sales and also sell better. Even in a one-on-one conversation, how can I negotiate? How do I deal with, objections? It's too expensive, whatever. And also how to use the right tools. Like, should I do email sales, phone sales? Should I walk into the shops and sell that way? But it's always answering the question or trying to answer the question, always get better session by session. How can we sell better? Because fact is, and that is still mind-blowing to me, there is no business that does not sell. It doesn't exist. There's no single business that doesn't have to sell. So I think it's a universal skill that even if if you're a blogger selling necklaces, you should know the basics of selling. So that's what I do. And startups specifically say, hey, we do, 50 calls a day. And then I look at the calls and we figure out how can we scale that and make it even more effective.
Awesome. So what is the mistake a lot of salespeople do? Like you said, it's universal. So what is the mistake we all do somehow and somewhere?
That is a great question. It's very easy to answer actually. And it's a very universal answer or problem. It's the mindset, especially here in Austria. You know this. I don't even have to tell you. People are like, I don't want to sell. It's cheesy. It's kind of sleazy. It's like car dealership sales. But what I learned in the US is that even people before starting their startup, they want to learn how to sell the product that they want to maybe create. Because they understand that I need to have the right mindset. I need to be sold myself first. That's also the first thing I learned in the Valley. They said, hey, you need to be sold yourself, because if you're not, you won't be able to sell this in case, in this case, it was a software product, right, that I had to sell. So I had to be sold on the software so that I can sell it. So let's go back to the example of Mr. Austria. I need to be sold on the idea that I can actually win this. Only then I can successfully pitch myself. I think it's true in whatever business you do. So that's the first thing that most people do wrong, or where I also could improve and everybody else can improve, I think. And then two tactical things. One is following up. You also know this, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you want something, you don't just write one email, you don't just do one call, you have to follow up, and you have to, again, be sold yourself and give yourself permission to allow yourself to follow up. Because a lot of people are like, should I really email twice? Won't they think I'm annoying? But following up is a very technical thing that a lot of people, I think, can improve, and I see over and over again in my coachings. And then the last tip is to ask for the close, right? You do all the work, but you don't dare to ask, hey, do we have the deal now? Can you sign today? Do you have the money with you? So I would really say, work on your mindset, dare to follow up, and then also dare to ask for the close. Those are probably the biggest things that I see over and over again that people could improve in sales.
So Alberto, thank you so much. I'm coming to an end. I would just love to ask you, if the audience wants to reach out to you, where can we find you online?
You can find me online, albertonodale.com. Of course, also on Instagram, where I'm very active, as you know, Alberto Nodale. And yeah, those are the best channels to reach me, and you'll also find my email address there.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was great having you. Thank you also for tuning in. That was the Failure Talk. And if you liked what you see, just give us a like, subscribe for the channel, and see you next time.
See you guys. Thanks
Bye.
for watching.